It was a hot summer afternoon in Willow Creek, a small town where everyone knew each other. The air felt thick and the sun hung low in the sky like it didn't want to leave. Along the side of an empty country road, Marcus Johnson pedaled his old bicycle slowly, sweat dripping down his forehead. His basketball shorts clung to him, damp from hours of practice at the local court. He had been working on his jump shot all day, dreaming of making it big one day, maybe even playing for the NBA. As he rode past rows of tall trees that lined the road, something caught his eye. A shiny silver car sat parked awkwardly on the shoulder, its hazard lights flashing. The vehicle looked out of place here, too fancy for this quiet stretch of asphalt. Curious, Marcus slowed down and stopped his bike near the car. Sitting behind the wheel was a man dressed in a crisp suit, his face tense as he leaned over the front tire. It was flat, squished against the ground like a pancake. The man stepped out of the car, running a hand through his neatly combed hair. He sighed loudly, clearly frustrated. His expensive shoes were covered in dirt now because he'd been kneeling by the tire. Marcus watched him for a moment, unsure what to do. Normally he would have kept riding. He didn't know this guy after all. But something about the scene made him hesitate. Maybe it was the way the man looked so helpless, standing there with tools scattered around him, trying to figure out how to fix the tire. Or maybe it was just the kindness his mom always taught him. If someone needs help, offer it. "Hey," Marcus called out, swinging off his bike and walking closer. "Need some help?" The man turned, surprised to see a teenager approaching. For a second, he seemed unsure whether to trust him. But then he nodded, relief washing over his face. "Yeah, actually, I could use a hand," he said, smiling weakly. "I'm not exactly handy with these things." Marcus grinned. "No problem. I can change a tire pretty quick." He dropped his bike onto the grass and got to work. The man introduced himself as Jonathan Hayes, while Marcus rolled up his sleeves and grabbed the jack. As they worked together, Marcus couldn't help but notice how different Jonathan seemed compared to anyone else he'd met in Willow Creek. His clothes were spotless, except for the dirt stains on his knees now. His watch glinted in the sunlight, and his phone, a sleek device Marcus had only seen in ads, lay on the hood of the car. Everything about him screamed wealth, but there was also a quiet sadness in his eyes, like he carried a heavy burden no one else could see. "So what brings you out here?" Marcus asked casually as he loosened the lug nuts. "Don't see many cars like yours around here." Jonathan chuckled softly. "Just passing through. I thought I'd take the scenic route, instead of the highway. Guess I should have stuck to my usual path." Marcus laughed. "Yeah, this road's not exactly smooth sailing." They fell into an easy rhythm, chatting as Marcus finished replacing the tire. Jonathan asked about school, basketball, and life in Willow Creek. In return, Marcus learned that Jonathan lived in the city and ran his own business. Though he didn't go into detail, Marcus sensed it was something important, something high-tech. When the job was done, Jonathan shook Marcus's hand firmly. "I really appreciate this," Jonathan said sincerely. "You saved me a lot of trouble." "No big deal," Marcus replied with a shrug. "Happy to help." Jonathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a few bills, holding them out to Marcus. "Here, for your time." But Marcus shook his head. "Nah, keep it. Just glad I could lend a hand." For a moment, Jonathan looked taken aback, as though he wasn't used to people refusing payment. Then he smiled again, this time with genuine warmth. "Well, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call." He handed Marcus a business card, which Marcus accepted without thinking much of it. After saying goodbye, Marcus hopped back on his bike and continued toward home. He glanced down at the card once before tucking it into his pocket. On it was printed a name, Jonathan Hayes, and a logo for a company called Horizon Tech. Marcus didn't know it yet, but that simple act of kindness on a dusty country road would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. A few weeks had passed since Marcus helped Jonathan with the flat tire. Life in Willow Creek went on as usual, slow and predictable. School, basketball practice, helping his mom around the house. It was all part of Marcus's daily routine. But something about that afternoon stayed with him. He often found himself thinking about Jonathan, wondering what kind of work he did or why someone so successful would take the time to talk to a kid like him. Then one evening, everything changed. Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his mom, listening as she sighed heavily while going over their bills. Rent had gone up again and money was tighter than ever. His mom worked long hours at the diner downtown, but it never seemed enough. Marcus hated seeing her stressed, and for the first time in a while, he felt helpless. That's when his eyes landed on the crumpled business card still sitting on the counter where he'd left it weeks ago. "Who's that from?" his mom asked, noticing him staring at the card. "It's from a guy I met," Marcus said vaguely. "He gave it to me after I helped him fix a flat tire." His mom raised an eyebrow. "Did you call him yet?" "No," Marcus admitted. "But maybe I should." She smiled softly. "Sometimes opportunities come when you least expect them. If this man thought enough to give you his card, maybe it's worth finding out why." The next morning before heading to school, Marcus picked up the phone and dialed the number on the card. His heart raced as the line rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as he was about to hang up, a voice answered. Jonathan Hayes speaking. Hearing the name startled Marcus for a second. Hi. This is Marcus, the guy who helped you with your tire." There was a pause, then a warm laugh. "Marcus. Of course I remember you. How are you doing?" "I'm good," Marcus replied, suddenly nervous. "I just wanted to see if maybe we could meet up sometime. You mentioned calling if I needed anything, so..." To his surprise, Jonathan didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. Come by my office tomorrow afternoon. We can talk more then." The address Jonathan gave him led to a towering glass building in the heart of the city, a place Marcus had only seen from afar. The next day, after school, Marcus took the bus into town, clutching the business card tightly in his hand. When he arrived, he couldn't believe how different everything looked compared to Willow Creek. People bustled along the sidewalks, dressed sharply and talking into their phones. Cars honked impatiently, and the air smelled faintly of exhaust, mixed with coffee. Inside the Horizon Tech building, the lobby gleamed like something out of a movie. The floors were polished marble, and the walls were lined with screens displaying futuristic animations. A receptionist greeted Marcus politely and told him to wait in a sleek waiting area filled with leather chairs. Nervously, Marcus fidgeted with his backpack straps until Jonathan appeared. "Marcus," Jonathan said warmly, extending a hand. "Thanks for coming." Marcus shook his hand awkwardly. "Thanks for letting me visit." Jonathan gave him a tour of the building, explaining that Horizon Tech focused on cutting-edge technology, robots, artificial intelligence, and other innovations designed to improve people's lives. They walked past labs filled with engineers hunched over computers, testing machines that looked like props from science fiction movies. In one room, a robot arm moved gracefully, picking up objects and placing them into boxes with precision. "This is incredible," Marcus murmured, wide-eyed. He'd never imagined places like this existed outside of TV shows. Jonathan grinned. "It's pretty cool, isn't it? We're always looking for fresh ideas. People like you, young minds who aren't afraid to dream big, are the future." The end of the tour. Marcus felt inspired in a way he hadn't before. As they stood in Jonathan's spacious office overlooking the city skyline, Marcus finally spoke up. "What do you need me for?" he asked bluntly. "I mean, you've got all these smart people working here. Why bring me in?" Jonathan leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus carefully. "Because sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places. You've already shown me you're resourceful and hardworking. I think you could contribute here in ways you might not realize yet." Marcus wasn't sure what to say. For years, he'd felt stuck in Willow Creek, like nothing exciting would ever happen to him. Now, standing in this high-tech wonderland, he felt a spark of possibility, a chance to step into a world far beyond his wildest dreams. Over the next few months, Marcus became a regular visitor at Horizon Tech. At first, his role was small. He helped with simple tasks like organizing files, running errands, or fetching coffee for the engineers. But Jonathan quickly noticed how eager Marcus was to learn and how curious he was about everything happening in the labs. It wasn't long before Marcus started asking questions, lots of them. One afternoon, while watching a team of engineers test a new robot prototype, Marcus leaned over to Jonathan. "What does that code do?" he asked, pointing to a screen filled with lines of text. Jonathan smiled. "That's what tells the robot how to move. Want me to show you?" Marcus nodded enthusiastically, and from that moment on, Jonathan began teaching him the basics of coding and robotics. They started with simple programs, but Marcus caught on quickly. His natural talent surprised even himself. Numbers and patterns clicked in his mind like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Soon, he was writing basic commands to make the robots perform simple actions like picking up objects or moving in straight lines. The more time Marcus spent at Horizon Tech, the more he realized how much he loved it. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged somewhere. The engineers treated him kindly, answering his endless questions and encouraging him to try new things. Even though he was just a kid from Willow Creek, no one made him feel out of place. In fact, many of them seemed impressed by his determination and creativity. One day, Jonathan handed Marcus a project of his own. "We're working on a robot designed to help elderly people," Jonathan explained. "It needs to be able to navigate tight spaces without bumping into furniture. Think you can figure out a way to improve its mobility system?" Marcus stared at the blueprint, feeling both excited and nervous. This was his chance to prove himself, to show that he could contribute something real. He spent hours studying the design, sketching ideas, and experimenting with different codes. When he finally came up with a solution, he hesitated to share. It worried it might not work. But Jonathan encouraged him to present his idea to the team. To Marcus's amazement, the engineers loved it. They tested his modifications and found that the robot moved more smoothly than ever before. For the first time, Marcus saw the direct impact of his work. That moment changed everything. He wasn't just a teenager tagging along anymore. He was part of the team. Despite his growing confidence, Marcus couldn't ignore the warnings Jonathan kept giving him. Late one evening, after everyone else had gone home, Jonathan pulled Marcus aside. "You're doing great," he said. "But I need you to understand something. Not all technology is used for good. Some people want to take these innovations and turn them into weapons." Marcus frowned. "Weapons like guns?" "Not exactly," Jonathan replied. "Imagine robots programmed to fight wars controlled by governments or corporations. It's dangerous, and it's already happening." Marcus thought about this for a long time. He trusted Jonathan, but he also knew that money talked louder than morals in the world of business. Still, he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the positive changes he could make. After all, he reminded himself, he was here to help people, not hurt them. As the weeks went by, Marcus continued learning and contributing. He attended meetings, brainstormed ideas, and even gave input on major projects. The other engineers began treating him less like a kid and more like a colleague. But despite all the progress, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There were whispered conversations behind closed doors, late-night phone calls, and mentions of a mysterious project called Genesis. No one ever explained what it was, but the tension surrounding it was impossible to miss. One evening, as Marcus stayed late to finish testing a new program, he accidentally stumbled upon a restricted area of the lab. Curiosity got the better of him and he peeked inside. What he saw shocked him. A humanoid robot unlike anything he'd worked on before. Its design was eerily lifelike, with muscles and joints that mimicked human movement perfectly. Notes scattered across a nearby table hinted at military applications. Heart-pounding, Marcus backed away slowly. Whatever Project Genesis was, it wasn't meant for helping people. And suddenly, he understood why Jonathan had warned him about the darker side of technology. This wasn't just about making life easier. It was about power, control, and danger. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. The image of the humanoid robot kept replaying in his mind, its lifelike design haunting him. He had always thought Horizon Tech was about helping people, building tools to make life better. But now, he wasn't so sure. What he'd seen in that restricted lab made his stomach churn. Military applications. Was Jonathan's company creating weapons disguised as technology? The next day, Marcus tried to act normal, but it was hard. He helped with a few tasks in the lab, answered questions from the engineers, and even smiled when someone complimented his work. But inside, his thoughts were racing. Should he confront Jonathan, pretend he hadn't seen anything, or walk away entirely? Finally, during a quiet moment in Jonathan's office, Marcus decided to speak up. "I saw something last night," he began hesitantly. "In the restricted lab." Jonathan froze, his pen hovering over a document on his desk. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then he sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. "What did you see, Marcus?" "That robot. It looked human. And there were papers talking about military stuff. Is that what Project Genesis is about?" Jonathan rubbed his temples, looking older than usual. "Marcus, I wanted to protect you from this part of the business. You're young. You shouldn't have to deal with these kinds of decisions." "Decisions?" Marcus asked, confused. "What decisions?" Jonathan stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city skyline. "Some investors want us to use our technology for things I never intended. They see potential profits in warfare, robots that can fight battles, machines that don't feel pain or fear. It's dangerous, Marcus. Once we go down that road, there's no turning back." Marcus felt anger bubbling inside him. "But why are you letting them do it? Can't you stop them?" "It's not that simple," Jonathan replied. "If I refuse, they'll take the project elsewhere, to companies with fewer morals, less oversight. At least here I can try to control it, keep it from getting worse." Marcus shook his head. "That doesn't sound right. If you know it's wrong, you should shut it down completely." "I wish it were that easy," Jonathan said quietly. "But power and money, they twist everything, even good intentions." For days after their conversation, Marcus wrestled with what to do. He trusted Jonathan, but he also knew that staying silent wasn't an option. Deep down, he believed technology should serve humanity, not harm it. He couldn't just stand by while something so dangerous was being built. One afternoon, while riding the bus home, Marcus remembered Emily Dawson, a local journalist who often wrote stories exposing corruption and injustice. Her articles had appeared in newspapers around town, and she was known for her determination to uncover the truth. Maybe she could help. The next morning, Marcus visited Emily at her small office above a cafe. She listened carefully as he explained everything: the robot, the whispers about Project Genesis, and Jonathan's dilemma. At first, she seemed skeptical, raising an eyebrow at his story. "Why would a kid like you know all this?" she asked. "I've been working at Horizon Tech," Marcus admitted. "I didn't mean to find out, but now that I know, I can't ignore it." Emily studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, Marcus. If you're serious about stopping this, we'll need proof. Documents, recordings, something concrete." Over the next few weeks, Marcus worked secretly to gather evidence. Using his access to the labs, he photographed blueprints, copied files onto a USB drive, and recorded snippets of conversations between Jonathan and the investors. Each step terrified him. If anyone found out what he was doing, he'd be in serious trouble. But the thought of those robots being turned into weapons pushed him forward. Meanwhile, tensions at Horizon Tech grew worse. Investors demanded faster progress on Project Genesis, threatening legal action if Jonathan didn't comply. Late one night, Marcus overheard a heated argument in Jonathan's office. "You're risking everything," one of the investors shouted. "Do you think ethics pay the bills?" "And you're risking lives," Jonathan shot back. "This isn't just another product, it's a weapon. Do you really want that on your conscience?" The room fell silent. When Jonathan spoke again, his voice was quieter but firm. "I'm pulling funding from Genesis, end of discussion." The investors stormed out, slamming the door behind them. Marcus waited until they were gone before stepping into the office. Jonathan looked exhausted, his face pale. "They'll come after me now," he muttered. "After us." Marcus swallowed hard. "Then we need to get the evidence out. Fast." Jonathan handed him a flash drive containing critical data. Take this to Emily. Make sure she gets it. Whatever happens next, don't let them win. Marcus left Jonathan's office that night with the flash drive clutched tightly in his hand. The weight of it felt heavier than it should, like he was carrying more than just a piece of plastic and metal. He knew what was at stake. If the information got into the wrong hands, it could ruin Jonathan's life. But if they succeeded, it might stop something far worse from happening. The streets were quiet as Marcus made his way to Emily Dawson's office. His heart raced with every step, his mind replaying Jonathan's warning. They'll come after me now. Who exactly they were, Marcus didn't know, but he imagined powerful people, people who wouldn't hesitate to silence anyone standing in their way. For the first time, Marcus felt truly afraid, not just for himself, but for Jonathan, who had risked everything to protect his principles. When he arrived at Emily's office, she was waiting for him, her laptop open on the desk. Her expression turned serious when she saw the look on Marcus's. "Ferdo, you've got it?" she asked. He nodded and handed her the flash drive. "This has everything," he said quietly. "Blueprints, recordings, notes about Project Genesis, enough to expose what they're planning." Emily plugged the drive into her computer and began going through the files. As she scrolled through documents and listened to audio clips, her eyes widened. "This is huge, Marcus," she whispered. "If we release this, it could shut down the entire project and maybe Horizon Tech too." "That's okay," Marcus replied firmly. "If stopping them means destroying the company, then so be it. They can't keep making weapons like this." Emily hesitated. "Do you realize what this will mean for Jonathan? He's putting his career and probably his safety on the line for this." "I know," Marcus said. "But he chose to do the right thing. We have to back him up." Over the next few days, Emily worked tirelessly to verify the evidence and write her story. She reached out to trusted sources in journalism, ensuring the information would reach the public without being buried or dismissed. Meanwhile, Marcus stayed close to Jonathan, keeping him updated on their progress. The tension in the air was palpable. Every phone call, every email felt like it could be traced back to them. One evening, while Marcus was helping Jonathan sort through old research papers, there was a sudden knock at the door. Both of them froze. No one else should have been in the building at that hour. Slowly, Jonathan moved to answer it. Standing outside were two men in dark suits, their expressions cold and unreadable. "We need to speak with you," one of them said sharply, pushing past Jonathan before he could protest. "And your young friend here." Marcus's stomach dropped. These were the investors, or someone working for them. Their presence confirmed what he'd feared most. They knew. "What do you want?" Jonathan demanded, stepping between them and Marcus. "You're making a mistake," the taller man growled. "Shutting down Genesis won't stop us. It'll only make things harder for everyone." "It's already done," Jonathan snapped. "I've pulled funding. There's nothing left for you to take." The second man smirked. "Oh, we'll see about that." He glanced at Marcus, his gaze piercing. "Kid, you don't understand how big this goes. Walk away while you still can." Marcus clenched his fists, but didn't say a word. He refused to let them intimidate him. After a tense standoff, the men finally left, slamming the door behind them. Jonathan exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. "That was close," he muttered. "Too close." "They're scared," Marcus said. "That means we're doing something right." Jonathan managed a weak smile. "Let's hope so." 2 days later, Emily's article hit the newsstands. Headlines screamed across every major outlet. "Tech giant exposed, secret. Military robot program uncovered." Within hours, the scandal went viral. Public outrage erupted as people learned about the unethical experiments and the dangerous potential of Project Genesis. Protesters gathered outside Horizon Tech's headquarters, demanding accountability. The fallout was immediate. Investors distanced themselves from the company, fearing association with the controversy. Government agencies launched investigations into Horizon Tech's practices. And though Jonathan faced scrutiny for his role in the project, many praised him for blowing the whistle and trying to stop it. For Marcus, watching the world react was surreal. One moment he was just a kid from Willow Creek, the next he was part of something bigger than himself. He realized that standing up for what was right came with risks, but also rewards. Thanks to his bravery, something terrible had been stopped before it could cause harm. In the weeks following the scandal, life changed dramatically for Marcus and Jonathan. The fallout from Emily's article was massive. Horizon Tech became a household name, but not in the way anyone had hoped. Government investigations shut down Project Genesis permanently, and several top executives were arrested for their involvement in unethical practices. Though Jonathan wasn't charged with any wrongdoing, his reputation took a hit. Many people questioned how much he'd known about the project before deciding to blow the whistle. For Marcus, the attention was overwhelming. Reporters swarmed. Willow Creek, eager to interview the boy who exposed the tech giant. His mom tried to shield him as best she could, but it was impossible to ignore the spotlight. Neighbors congratulated him on doing the right thing, while others whispered that he'd ruined a good company. Through it all, Marcus stayed grounded, remembering why he'd done what he did, to stop something dangerous from hurting innocent people. Jonathan didn't disappear after the scandal. Instead, he used his platform to advocate for ethical technology. He gave speeches at conferences, wrote opinion pieces for newspapers, and even started a non-profit organization aimed at teaching kids like Marcus about coding and robotics. But with a focus on using innovation for good. It was his way of making amends and ensuring that Horizon Tech's mistakes wouldn't be repeated. One day, Jonathan invited Marcus to attend an awards ceremony in the city. At first, Marcus thought Jonathan just wanted him to tag along, but when they arrived, he realized the truth. The event honored individuals who had made significant contributions to science and technology, and Jonathan had nominated Marcus for a special Youth Achievement Award. When Marcus's name was called, he walked nervously onto the stage, the audience applauding loudly. Jonathan stood beside him, smiling proudly. As Marcus accepted the trophy, a small glass sculpture shaped like a circuit board, he felt a lump form in his throat. For so long, he'd felt invisible, like nothing exciting would ever happen to him. Now, standing under bright lights with hundreds of eyes on him, he understood that his actions mattered. In his short acceptance speech, Marcus thanked Jonathan, Emily, and his mom. "I didn't do this alone," he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "But I hope my story shows other kids like me that you don't have to wait until you're older to make a difference. If you see something wrong, speak up. Stand up, because sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but it's always worth it." The crowd erupted into applause again, and Marcus couldn't help but smile. This moment wasn't just for him. It was for every kid in Willow Creek, every teenager dreaming of a better future. He wanted them to know that no matter where they came from, they had the power to change things. After the ceremony, Jonathan pulled Marcus aside. "You've earned this," he said, gesturing to the trophy. "But more importantly, you've earned respect. From me, from the world. Don't let anyone take that away from you." "I won't," Marcus promised. "And I'll keep working to make sure technology helps people, not hurts them." True to his word, Marcus threw himself into learning everything he could about robotics and artificial intelligence. With Jonathan's support, he enrolled in advanced classes and attended workshops hosted by the nonprofit. Over time, he developed his own ideas, innovations designed to solve real-world problems like robots that could assist farmers or systems that provided clean water to remote areas. His creativity and determination inspired others, proving that age didn't define ability. Years passed, and Marcus grew into a young man driven by purpose. He never forgot the lessons he'd learned during those chaotic months at Horizon Tech, the importance of courage, integrity, and standing up for what was right. And though he missed the simplicity of his old life in Willow Creek, he knew he'd found his place in the world. One evening, as Marcus stood on a stage accepting another award for his groundbreaking work in sustainable robotics, he thought back to that dusty country road where it all began. Helping a stranger with a flat tire had seemed like such a small act at the time. But sometimes the smallest actions lead to the biggest changes.